I wish, I would, I could. Learning the conditional tense in Italian is not just about good grammar, it's your ticket to sounding polite and natural. Ever wondered why Italians say
Vorrei un caffè.
instead of?
Voglio un caffè.
Which one you choose can be the difference between being charming or coming across as rude. Italians rely on the conditional form to soften requests, express wishes, and share opinions tactfully. In this lesson, you'll learn how to form and use the Italian conditional tense, both present and past, to share your wishes, give advice, and talk about hypothetical situations. I'll also reveal the single most common mistake learners of Italian make when using the conditional and how you can avoid it. But here's the twist. Do you know that the conditional isn't just for hypotheticals? Stick around and I'll reveal how Italians cleverly blend it with the subjunctive to elevate their expressions. And don't worry about taking notes, I've done all the hard work for you. To help you to practice everything that you're about to learn here today, make sure you download your free PDF cheat sheet, which includes all the vocabulary and examples in this lesson. Just click on the link in the description box below this video. Pronti? Iniziamo! Let's get started. Now let's start with, what is the Italian conditional tense? Technically speaking, the conditional or condizionale is not a tense, but a mood, just like the subjunctive, congiuntivo. Now, while tenses describe when an action takes place, moods indicate how an action is expressed. Specifically, the conditional is used to convey hypothetical situations, express wishes, make polite requests, soften requests, and talk about possibilities that depend on certain conditions being met. This link to conditions is reflected in its name.
Condizionale.
Comes from the Latin word
Conditio.
meaning condition. In English, it corresponds to constructions like would or should plus the infinitive. Take a look at this example.
Viaggerei se avessi tempo.
I would travel if I had time.
Viaggerei.
I would travel is in the conditional mood, as it describes an action that depends on a condition.
Se avessi tempo.
If I had time is the condition needed for the action of the traveling to happen. Without the condition, or having time, the action of traveling cannot take place. Let's take a look at how to form the present conditional in Italian. Now, the Italian conditional is one of the easiest moods to learn. It only has two tenses, the present, also known as the simple conditional, and the past, or the compound conditional. Even better, forming the conditional is straightforward, especially if you're already familiar with the Italian simple future tense, since they share similar rules. Now, to brush up on the future tense in Italian, make sure you watch my video lesson right here. Now, in the sections to come, we'll explore how to conjugate the conditional in both the present and past tenses, look at some irregular verbs, and explore when to use the conditional in Italian. Let's start with irregular verbs in the present conditional. Now, to form the present conditional in Italian, take the infinitive form of the verb, remove the final E from the infinitive ending, and add the specific endings based on the subject pronoun. The endings for the present conditional are the same for all regular verbs, whether they end in ARE, ERE, or IRE. There is just one exception though. For verbs that end in ARE, the A in the infinitive changes to E before adding the endings. Take a look at this table.
Parlare.
To speak.
Parlerei. Parleresti. Parlerebbe. Parleremmo. Parlereste. Parlerebbero. Prendere.
To take.
Prenderei. Prenderesti. Prenderebbe. Prenderemmo. Prendereste. Prenderebbero. Dormire.
To sleep.
Dormirei. Dormiresti. Dormirebbe. Dormiremmo. Dormireste. Dormirebbero.
Take a look at these examples.
Parlerebbero volentieri con il direttore.
They would gladly speak to the director.
Prenderei un caffè.
I would have a coffee.
Dormirebbero meglio con un cuscino più morbido.
They would sleep better with a softer pillow.
Scriveresti una canzone per me?
Would you write a song for me? Attenzione! The first person plural form, noi or we, in the present conditional tense in Italian is very similar to the simple future tense. There's only one key difference between the two forms. The conditional tense uses a double M, while the future tense only uses a single M. This small difference might seem subtle, but it's important because it changes the meaning of the sentence. Take a look at these examples.
Andremmo al lago domani.
We would go to the lake tomorrow. Conditional.
Andremo al lago domani.
We will go to the lake tomorrow. Future. Now let's take a look at irregular verbs in the present conditional. Here's some good news. There are only a few irregular verbs to memorize when forming the present conditional in Italian. Additionally, these irregularities also appear in the future tense, so there's less to remember. Now, to learn the top 30 irregular verbs in Italian and how to conjugate them, make sure you watch my video lesson right here. Okay, here are the main irregular verbs to keep an eye out for. Essere and avere are completely irregular. Take a look at this table.
Essere.
To be.
Sarei. Saresti. Sarebbe. Saremmo. Sareste. Sarebbero. Avere.
To have.
Avrei. Avresti. Avrebbe. Avremmo. Avreste. Avrebbero.
Then we have verbs that end in C-I-A-R-E and G-I-A-R-E. They drop the I from the infinitive. On top of that, they change the A to an E in the root, just like all regular A-R-E verbs in the conditional. Take a look at this table.
Cominciare.
To start.
Io comincerei. Tu cominceresti. Lui, lei comincerebbe. Noi cominceremmo. Voi comincereste. Loro comincerebbero. Mangiare.
To eat.
Io mangerei. Tu mangeresti. Lui, lei mangerebbe. Noi mangeremmo. Voi mangereste. Loro mangerebbero. Lasciare.
To leave.
Lascerei. Lasceresti. Lascerebbe. Lasceremmo. Lascereste. Lascerebbero. Danneggiare.
To damage.
Danneggerei. Danneggeresti. Danneggerebbe. Danneggeremmo. Danneggereste. Danneggerebbero. Mangiare.
To eat.
Mangerei. Mangeresti. Mangerebbe. Mangeremmo. Mangereste. Mangerebbero.
Are you enjoying this lesson? Don't let the learning stop here. Make sure you download your free PDF cheat sheet for this lesson, which you'll find a link to in the description box below this video. Then we have verbs ending in C-A-R-E and G-A-R-E. They add an H before the conditional endings to preserve that hard sound of the C and G. Additionally, just like all A-R-E verbs, the A changes to an E. Take a look at this table.
Cercare.
To look for.
Cercherei. Cercheresti. Cercherebbe. Cercheremmo. Cerchereste. Cercherebbero. Giocare.
To play.
Giocherei. Giocheresti. Giocherebbe. Giocheremmo. Giochereste. Giocherebbero. Litigare.
To argue.
Litigherei. Litigheresti. Litigherebbe. Litigheremmo. Litighereste. Litigherebbero. Pagare.
To pay.
Pagherei. Pagheresti. Pagherebbe. Pagheremmo. Paghereste. Pagherebbero. praticare,
To practice.
praticherei, praticheresti, praticherebbe, praticheremmo, pratichereste, praticherebbero.
Then we have certain ERE verbs that lose the E in the root when forming the conditional. The verb andare, to go, which is an ARE verb, also follows this pattern. Take a look at this table.
Andare,
To go.
andrei, andresti, andrebbe, andremmo, andreste, andrebbero. Cadere,
To fall.
cadrei, cadresti, cadrebbe, cadremmo, cadreste, cadrebbero. Dovere,
Have to. Must.
dovrei, dovresti, dovrebbe, dovremmo, dovreste, dovrebbero. Potere,
Be able to.
potrei, potresti, potrebbe, potremmo, potreste, potrebbero. Sapere,
To know.
saprei, sapresti, saprebbe, sapremmo, sapreste, saprebbero. Vivere,
To live.
vivrei, vivresti, vivrebbe, vivremmo, vivreste, vivrebbero.
Then we have some verbs that lose part of the root and double the letter R. Take a look.
Bere,
To drink.
berrei, berresti, berrebbe, berremmo, berreste, berrebbero. Mantenere,
To maintain.
manterrei, manterresti, manterrebbe, manterremmo, manterreste, manterrebbero. Rimanere,
To remain.
rimarrei, rimarresti, rimarrebbe, rimarremmo, rimarreste, rimarrebbero. Tenere,
To keep.
terrei, terresti, terrebbe, terremmo, terreste, terrebbero. Venire,
To come.
verrei, verresti, verrebbe, verremmo, verreste, verrebbero. Volere,
To want.
vorrei, vorresti, vorrebbe, vorremmo, vorreste, vorrebbero.
Some ARE verbs keep the A of the infinitive instead of changing it to E. Take a look at this table.
Dare,
To give.
darei, daresti, darebbe, daremmo, dareste, darebbero. Fare,
To do. To make.
farei, faresti, farebbe, faremmo, fareste, farebbero. Stare,
To stay.
starei, staresti, starebbe, staremmo, stareste, starebbero.
Are you enjoying this lesson? Don't let the learning stop here. Make sure you download your free PDF cheat sheet for this lesson, which you'll find a link to in the description below this video. Let's take a look at when to use the present conditional in Italian. The present conditional in Italian can be used on its own or in longer sentences with subordinate clauses, meaning those that depend on another part of a sentence. Here are the primary contexts where it's used. To talk about things you would like or wish for, similar to I would like or it would be nice in English. Take a look at these examples.
Ci piacerebbe tanto andare a Venezia.
We would love to go to Venice.
Sarebbe bello stare insieme a Natale.
It would be nice to be together at Christmas. To make polite requests replacing the imperative mood that can sometimes sound too direct or even aggressive. For example,
Vorrei 3 arance, per favore.
I would like 3 oranges, please.
Scusi, saprebbe dirmi dov'è la farmacia più vicina?
Excuse me, could you tell me where the nearest pharmacy is? Now, to learn more about how and when to use the imperative in Italian, you can watch my video lesson right here. It's also used to express personal opinions and giving advice without sounding too imposing. For example,
Secondo me dovresti chiamare un tecnico per quella caldaia.
in my opinion, you should call a technician for that boiler.
Matteo dovrebbe essere meno rigido con i suoi figli.
Matteo should be less strict with his kids. We also use the conditional to report things that are not yet confirmed or based on someone else's account, especially in journalism. For example,
Tra le vittime ci sarebbero 3 italiani.
among the victims, there are said to be 3 Italians.
Secondo i familiari, il ragazzo scomparso indosserebbe una giacca blu.
According to the family, the missing boy was wearing a blue jacket. It's also used to express doubt or uncertainty. For example,
Non so se riuscirei a perdonarlo.
I don't know if I would be able to forgive him.
C'è lo sciopero dei mezzi. Come potremmo arrivare in tempo?
There is a transport strike. How could we get there on time? It's also used to talk about hypothetical scenarios using the type 2 of if clauses that describe unlikely but possible situations. The main clause uses the conditional while the subordinate clause requires the imperfect subjunctive. Take a look.
Se nevicasse, andrei a sciare.
If it was snowing, I would go skiing.
Se studiassi di più, prenderesti voti migliori.
If you studied more, you would get better grades. Now, to learn more about how and when to use the subjunctive in Italian, make sure you watch my video lesson right here. Now let's take a look at how to form the past conditional in Italian. The past conditional is even easier to form. It's like the passato prossimo. It's a compound tense, meaning it consists of 2 elements. The auxiliary verb, either essere or avere, conjugated in the present conditional, plus the past participle of the main verb. Let's start with the verb avere. Now, the auxiliary, avere, to have, is generally used with itself and with transitive verbs, meaning those that require a direct object, like mangiare, to eat, vedere, to see or to watch, and sentire, to hear. In this case, the past participle of the main verb remains in the singular masculine form. Take a look at this table.
Parlare.
To speak.
Avrei parlato. Avresti parlato. Avrebbe parlato. Avremmo parlato. Avreste parlato. Avrebbero parlato. Credere.
To believe.
Avrei creduto. Avresti creduto. Avrebbe creduto. Avremmo creduto. Avreste creduto. Avrebbero creduto. Capire.
To understand.
Avrei capito. Avresti capito. Avrebbe capito. Avremmo capito. Avreste capito. Avrebbero capito.
Take a look at these examples.
Bastava dirlo. Avrei capito la situazione.
It would have been enough to say it. I would have understood the situation.
Non avrebbero parlato di quel problema se non fosse stato così importante.
They wouldn't have spoken about that problem if it hadn't been so important. The auxiliary, essere, to be, is used with the verb essere itself, or with intransitive verbs, meaning those without a direct object, such as andare, to go, partire, to leave, rimanere, to remain, and svegliarsi, to wake up. Now, when using essere, the past participle must match the gender, masculine or feminine, and number, singular or plural, of the subject. Take a look at this table.
Andare.
To go.
Sarei andato. Andata. Saresti andato. Andata. Sarebbe andato. Andata. Saremmo andati. Andate. Sareste andati. Andate. Sarebbero andati. Andate. Cadere.
To fall.
Sarei caduto. Caduta. Saresti caduto. Caduta. Sarebbe caduto. Caduta. Saremmo caduti. Cadute. Sareste caduti. Cadute. Sarebbero caduti. Cadute. Partire.
To leave.
Sarei partito. Partita. Saresti partito. Partita. Sarebbe partito. Partita. Saremmo partiti. Partite. Sareste partiti. Partite. Sarebbero partiti. Partite.
Take a look at these examples.
Sarebbe stato meglio rimandare la partita.
It would have been better to postpone the game.
Sara sarebbe partita se avesse saputo di Sandro?
Would Sara have left if she had known about Sandro? So when do you use the past conditional in Italian? The past conditional is used in similar context to the present conditional, but it refers to actions or situations that are no longer possible or that didn't occur in the past. Here's how it's typically used. To express an unfulfilled desire in the past. For example,
Mi sarebbe piaciuto diventare un calciatore professionista.
I would have liked to become a professional soccer player.
Avrei visto volentieri anche Livorno durante il viaggio in Toscana.
I would have been happy to visit Livorno as well during the trip to Tuscany. It's also used to give advice suggesting that a past action was not ideal, sometimes implying reproach. For example,
Avresti fatto meglio a farti i fatti tuoi.
you would have done better to mind your own business.
Non avresti dovuto prendere il volo a quell'ora.
You shouldn't have got the flight at that time. It's also used to express a personal opinion about what would have been the best course of action in a certain situation. Take a look at these examples.
Secondo noi avrebbero dovuto ritirarsi dalla competizione.
In our opinion, they should have withdrawn from the competition.
Credo che sarebbe stato difficile fare l'evento in quelle condizioni.
I believe it would have been difficult to hold the event under those conditions. It's also used to report uncertain information, especially in the media. For example,
Il ladro avrebbe agito da solo.
the thief is said to have acted alone.
Ci sarebbero state 2 esplosioni.
There are said to have been 2 explosions. It's also used to express doubt or regret about the past. For example,
Cosa avremmo potuto fare per cambiare le cose?
what could we have done to change things?
Mi chiedo che cosa avrei potuto fare per farla sentire meglio.
I wonder what I could have done to make her feel better. It's used to talk about hypothetical scenarios that didn't happen in the past, using the third type of if clauses. For example,
Se avessi avuto più giorni di ferie, sarei andato anche in Calabria.
if I had had more days off, I would have gone to Calabria as well.
Se il treno non fosse stato in ritardo, non avremmo perso la coincidenza per Lecce.
If the train hadn't been delayed, we wouldn't have missed the connection to Lecce. It's also used to express the future in the past, something that was expected to happen after another past action. This construction, which is frequent in indirect speech, is conveyed with the present conditional in English. Take a look at these examples.
Mi hanno detto che il pacco sarebbe arrivato in tempo, ma così non è stato.
They told me the package would arrive on time, but it didn't.
Tua madre voleva sapere dove saremmo andati a cena.
My mother wanted to know where we would go for dinner. Now, to learn more about how to use indirect speech or reported speech in Italian, make sure you watch my video lesson right here. Are you enjoying this lesson? Don't let the learning stop here. Make sure you download your free PDF cheat sheet, which you'll find a link to in the description box below this video. Okay, now let's take a look at the difference and how we use the conditional tense versus the Italian subjunctive. Now, a frequent challenge when learning Italian is recognizing when to use the conditional as opposed to the subjunctive. But don't worry, even natives often mix this up. Now, the conditional and subjunctive moods often appear together, which can be confusing, but they serve distinct functions. For example, the subjunctive is used to express hypothetical, uncertain, or subjective scenarios, often linked to doubts, wishes, or emotions. For example,
Spero che tu stia bene.
I hope you are well. The conditional, on the other hand, describes uncertainty and actions or events that depend on specific conditions. For example,
Se fossi ricco, mi licenzierei.
if I were rich, I would quit my job. One of the most frequent grammar mistakes in Italian is using the conditional where the subjunctive is required. This error commonly occurs in type 2 and type 3 if clauses. For example, to say, if I knew it, I'd tell you, we don't say,
Se lo saprei, te lo direi.
Instead, we should say,
Se lo sapessi, te lo direi.
now to say, if I had had more time, I would have studied. We don't say,
Se avrei studiato di più, avrei passato l'esame.
instead, we should say,
Se avessi avuto più tempo, avrei studiato di più.
Now here's a trick to avoid this error. Whenever you see the conjunction se, if, in an if clause, it must be followed by the subjunctive mood, not the conditional. For example,
Se io saprei.
should be,
Se io sapessi.
if I knew,
Se io potrei.
should be,
Se io potessi.
if I could,
Se io dovrei.
should be,
Se io dovessi.
if I should. However, se can be followed by the conditional mood in indirect speech when expressing doubt, a question, or something uncertain. For example,
Stefano si domanda se le cose potrebbero cambiare.
Stefano wonders if things could change.
Mia sorella non sa se avrebbe perdonato Claudio.
My sister doesn't know if she would have forgiven Claudio. Now, to continue learning and to help you practice everything you've learned here today, make sure you download your free PDF cheat sheet for this lesson, which you'll find a link to below this video. If you enjoyed this lesson, then you'll love Intrepid Italian, my series of online self-paced video courses that break down everything you need to know about Italian using my unique 80-20 method. More details in the description below. And if you enjoyed this lesson, don't miss my lesson on how to use all 15 tenses in Italian, which you can do by watching this video lesson right here. Plus, if you want to master Italian word order and sentence structure, make sure you watch this video right here. In the meantime, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and turn on those notifications so you get an alert when I post more video lessons like this one. Until next time, ciao, un abbraccio.